Welcome back to the Broncast, podcast all about the Ford Bronco. I'm your host, John Melton.
And I'm Donnie Whiteman.
We are two Bronco enthusiasts who own Broncos, work on Broncos, and love talking about the Bronco from Generation 1 all the way through Generation 6. Our sponsor for this episode is Tom's Off-Road. Tom's Off-Road has every part you need to fully restore a Ford Bronco.
In today's episode, we're going to be, actually, instead of talking about some stuff, we're going to go and drive that brown Ranger that we made the video of. Well, I've since then done the laundry list of things to fix it and get it so we can drive it again. But it was unroadworthy.
Yeah.
So I had a whole list of things I did to it. And we just bled the brakes, did a few other things. And I'm going to let you do the shakedown drive.
Yeah. All right. This is... I trust you. You're not going to kill me, hopefully. But no, that'll be good. And because this is a driving episode, if you are listening to the podcast on your favorite podcast place, iTunes, Spotify, then check out the YouTube channel where you can actually watch us drive this Bronco. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Like and subscribe, as all the cool kids say these days. But yeah, that should be fun. We wanted to do this. I mean, back when you were first had it in the shop, but it was like the laundry list of things to do was super long.
It's like, well, we can't go yet. This just happened. Oh, we can't go yet.
Yeah,
that just broke. So it was in there, and I think the second week it was sitting in the warehouse. I walk in there, and there's a giant 3-foot puddle of transmission fluid under it. It's like I haven't even driven it, and the thing's just dying on me. Yeah. So it ended up getting a transmission rebuild, and then this is really funny, but yesterday I went to make sure we were good for today, and there's a puddle of coolant underneath the truck. Right before you got here, I'm out there in 95-degree weather replacing the 2 front hoses and putting coolant in it. But actually, the puddle that you see under is my sweat.
Yeah, it's a hot one today. Everything is sticky and moist.
So I would have called you last week, but you were out of town. Where were you?
I was. I was in Moab, Utah, actually, and one of my clients. I've been doing this project for Onyx Off-Road, their build challenge. The most recent visit that I did was with 2 YouTubers, Colt Builds It and Trail Mater, and they're out in Moab, and so I went out there and got filmed an update on they have a 1970s Pacer that they're turning
fishbowl.
Yeah, yes, they're turning it into an off-road racer. It's pretty cool. Like they basically took the body off the Pacer, got rid of everything, brought in a Jeep Wrangler, cut the Wrangler in half and stretched it to fit, so the Pacer fit on top of it. And then they're making it like a desert racer. So they got the bull hoop up front, and they're putting the, tires, 2 tires in the back, sticking out like a, trophy truck kind of thing.
Where the hatch is.
Yeah, where the hatch is. And they've got this company, Barnes 4x4, makes a 4-link kit, and it's super cool. It's basically like a belly pan that bolts up to the Wrangler frame, and then the links come off of that, and then they're doing coilovers. So super cool, 4-link kit, and so it should be a pretty sweet build when it's done. I think this is my favorite one of the bunch so far, but I'm sure I still have a bread truck that I'm gonna film, Mini Cooper that is coming, Jeep Liberty, and a Willys wagon, like an old school 50s or 60s Willys wagon. So
I'm taking the Pacer. That's such an 80s thing.
Oh yeah.
Up north, if you had a Ranchero,
yes,
you threw it on a Bronco chassis, or I've seen Corvettes, Mustangs,
Camaros, just anything and everything that you could chop the bottom out of and put it up there. But weren't Mustangs kind of unibody up front? They had their shock towers and all that kind of built in.
Yeah, they weren't full frames.
Yeah. But it was half frame. Like the frame stopped like halfway in. Yeah. Still cool. I mean, I would totally do that if I had an old Mustang. Throw it on a Bronco body or something. Make some atrocious thing that everyone on the internet hates.
They're gonna hate on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Haters.
Yep. What have you been working on?
Exhaust work lately. We built a 2-into-1 and made it so we put a V-band clamp right after we collected the two together. But I like stock manifolds, so this comes right off the stock manifolds. But the cool thing was when we finished it, you could literally unthread the bolts, hit the V-band clamp in a minute, and drop this thing down. It doesn't hit anything. So it needed to be away from the transfer case and dual exhaust. I mean, they all came with single exhaust. So you know me, I went back to
old school.
Yeah, old school.
Original.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think 2-into-1 is the way to go unless you're high horsepower. You don't need dual exhaust. I have dual exhaust and I definitely don't need it. But my dual exhaust helped me pass my emissions because I went to the emission. So this we in Nashville, we don't have to do emissions anymore because they've changed the law. So it's like, I just register my Bronco now and it passes. Back in the day, when I first got my Bronco, I had to pass emissions. And I remember I took it in the first time, couldn't get it to pass, and it had a carburetor on it. I didn't know carburetors. I didn't know how to tune, to get it to pass. And so that's when I started looking at Phytech and ended up getting a Phytech throttle body unit and put that on there and still failed, I just had too many issues. But I would go probably once a week because I would spend, a week trying to figure out, learning what was wrong with it, watching other people's YouTube videos and, reading the forums. And then I would go and try to get my emissions test done. And finally I got this lady and I pull up and she's like, "Baby, what kind of car is this?" And I'm like, "It's a Ford Bronco." And she's like, "I've never seen one of these before." And so I was just chatting with her and having a good time. And I was like, I keep failing this thing and, I can't pass it. Well, dual exhaust. So you're supposed to put 2 probes in, one on each side, because you're measuring the exhaust coming off each side of the V8. Yeah. And she just put it in on one side.
The good side.
Well, no, the other probe is monitoring, and she never stuck it in because when the thing registered as a V8,
so she improved it by 50%.
It literally did. It was amazing because, it definitely was reading on both the sensors, but one was just reading fresh air coming in. So that's how I passed back in the day. And then I tuned it. I got it. I got it in a good spot. And I figured out how to lean it out before I went to the DMV to get it where it would pass. So we got some events coming up that we get to go to and talk about. The first one coming up here in a few weeks, the Tom's Off-Road event.
The rock and roll event. This is going to be fun. This one's going to be a little different though, right?
Yeah. It's a little bit different format. They are starting on Thursday. I'm actually going to pull it up because I forget all the details of it. They're starting on Thursday. They're going to do a walkabout brewing meet and greet. So go have beers and hang out with your Pacific Northwest friends. Friday, upper table rock hike. And then an open house at the shop. Open house at the shop is the best part. If you haven't been to the Tom's Off-Road facility, it's incredible. You need to go.
It's like Disneyland.
It is.
I mean, it's a destination.
For Bronco fans, it is. It's the greatest, happiest
Bring
place
all
on
your
earth.
money.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you're going to see so much cool stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll take one of those and one of those and one of those. Friday night, the Rogue Valley Winery and Brewery Tour. Then Saturday, coffee cruising, scenic drive, and then heading up to Mount Ashland for their lunch, beverages, and some stuff up there. Pretty cool area for sure. So
yeah. Where did you take those star photos? And what was that? Was that like some sort of nebulas?
That was Mount Ashland. Yeah. So no one's going to know what this is, but I can do astrophotography.
Really?
Which is star photography. And it's just one of those things that I've enjoyed doing. So, I didn't do it when I was out in Moab this time, but Moab is a great place because it's such a dark sky. So you can see a bunch of stars. But you kind of have to time it right because, you can get shots of the Milky Way, but you need it the Earth is constantly spinning unless you think it's flat. But the Milky Way, we're constantly looking at it from a different angle. So it's always moving, and there's good parts of the Milky Way that you can see really well, and then parts of the Milky Way that are further that you can't see really well. So I was at the Tom's Off-Road event in, I think it was 2016, and I took my mom. We had the event up at Mount Ashland like we're doing this year. And I was up there and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hang out. And I had my mom's BMW. And I just stayed up there until the sun set and then waited for the Milky Way to get right in the perfect spot. It was like midnight or 1 a.m. and took a couple pictures of my mom's BMW with this beautiful Milky Way coming up. But yeah, it was the same spot. So I'm going to try to do that again this year, and hopefully I can have some Bronco people hang out with me and do some astrophotography with
1 in the morning.
Bronco. Yeah, that's terrible, but yeah. So,
it's a killer shot.
So if you're at the Tom's Off-Road event and you want a sick astrophotography picture of your Bronco, you got to come find me and bring me a good bottle of bourbon.
So John can stay up till 2 a.m.
Yeah. Well, that might put me to sleep, but oh man. So Tom's Off-Road event, July 18th through the 20th. Then the Tennessee Tailgate event.
Yeah, this is a new event. Actually, we've been having open houses, once a year. So we're just going to turn it into an event and call it the Tennessee Tailgate. And we're going to have 3 or 4 vendors here. We're grilling out if you want some free food. And we usually get 20 or 25 Broncos, but I have a suspicion we might get a whole lot more than that this year because I built 6. So they better bring theirs. That would put us at 30.
There you go.
Yeah. But you get to tour the place. I mean, it's not a huge place here, but there's probably 10 Broncos around here, whether it's frames or you can see John's Bronco and you can see my 79, the 69, I think 3 trucks in the shop. So, and we might even shoot something on the white Bronco before then. Yeah,
that'll be super fun. So that's July 27th. So if you're
in the
over
afternoon,
here,
so from probably 1 to 6 or something like that.
Yeah. So if you're in the Tennessee area, make sure to head over for that. It should be fun hanging out at Donnie's shop. And then also we've got an event on Saturday, August 3rd. It's the second East Bay Rhode Island Bronco Cruise. So if you're in Rhode Island, this event is for you. Or if you're in that area, I don't really know Rhode Island. If you're in the northeasters, this event's for you. This is, it's a coastal drive in Portsmouth, Middletown, Newport, and Bristol, Rhode Island. Meeting at Island Park Beach on the corner of Park Avenue and Aquaneck Road. So pretty cool.
You probably said all those
wrong.
I
said all those wrong.
I think it's Portsmouth.
Portsmouth.
I wouldn't know how to say the other one.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that part.
Yeah, but should be a cool event. If you're up there, 184 people have responded on Facebook so far.
Oh,
so
wow.
It could be a big group. But it's pretty fun. 9:30 in the morning. Should be pretty cool. So definitely check that out. And if you have an event a Bronco event that you're putting on that you want us to talk about on the podcast, by all means, let us know. We love talking about Bronco events because we got another one coming up that's not on our list, GSM.
Oh, geez.
When is that one?
The Great Smoky Mountain GSM Bronco Stampede.
Great Smoky Mountain Bronco Stampede. Yep. GSM. BS.
That's right. I knew you were going to do that.
I love calling it
I'm
that.
excited about that because it's at Pigeon Forge, which is, there's just all these rides and events, and it's kind of like Las Vegas for kids.
Yeah.
But then there's all the stuff for adults to do. But the guy that puts that event on, Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
Sorry, Jason.
We don't use his last name.
You're so famous you don't need one.
Yeah.
Jason
So
also
famous,
puts
he's
on the
infamous.
Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion.
Yeah.
And they get like 45,000 Jeeps at this
Crazy.
thing. So I assume this Bronco event will continue to grow.
Yeah.
This will be the
Definitely.
second year.
And another event that'll be going on that same weekend, that's the August 15, 16, 17, 18, or 17, 18, I guess, is the one up in Michigan, the drive down.
Woodward Avenue. Yeah.
The Woodward Cruise.
Yep.
So that'll be happening, and tons of Broncos come out for that because it's, Ford's headquarters, basically.
Yeah.
So super cool event. Donnie and I may divide and conquer. Maybe I'll go to the Woodward Cruise, and you go to the BS.
I wonder if the
GSMBS.
Bud Factory building's still in existence. I bet it is.
That'd be, yeah.
Wouldn't that be
interesting.
cool? That should be
Yeah.
a Bronco museum, I think,
That would be super cool. Yeah.
where Broncos were born.
All right. Well, let's take the Bronco Ranger out for a little test drive.
Right? It's all topped off.
All topped off.
Let's go.
All right. So Donnie's been working on this thing, and we've had this on the podcast before. This is from the Ranger episode where we filmed all this cool Ranger stuff on the inside. So Donnie's had it for a while, and he was like, "Hey, I'm in the middle of, or towards the end.
I'm done now.
He's done. Okay. So this is the shakedown run.
Unless I'm not done.
To see how good of a mechanic Donnie is.
Oh, I wish you hadn't said that.
Yeah.
Oh, we can edit that out.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Just don't.
You got to pump it a
don't
bunch.
Don't edit. Oh.
It's a carburetor. There we go.
Oh yeah. Purrs like a kitten.
Finally.
Yeah.
So this thing's got a new distributor.
Okay.
It wouldn't run at all. And then before I got to work on it, it was in the warehouse, and I came in the next day, and there was a swimming pool, like a baby-sized swimming pool of transmission fluid. So I had to take it to the transmission shop, and they got, from Coleman Taylor, you got a transmission rebuilt for a little over $3,000. And then that took a while, but now it's all back together. I'll tell you the whole list of things I've done. So You're going to shake down. So I did steering bearings, top and bottom.
Wow.
This has got to be warmed up more.
You got to be warmed up.
This is an old boy.
Yep.
So I did steering bearings, top and bottom in the column. I did all the steering linkage, all the ball joints are replaced.
Wow.
And then while I was at it, I noticed there's a broken spring, coil spring in the front. So I wasn't planning on removing the coil springs, but that was a chore. Bolts broke into the radius arm caps.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I ended up doing all the bushings in the front, the radius arm, C in the front, and then the radius arm bushings at the back, and it just went on and on and on. So we did a disc brake conversion from drum brakes.
Wow.
Also, but it still doesn't have a brake booster. So let's see how a disc
feels.
brake conversion does without the booster.
All right. It's a lot to talk about. If you notice, Donnie is sweating profusely because it is hot as Hades right now. It's summer in Tennessee, so it's extremely humid and it's very hot. But at least we have windows to roll down, and we're gonna take this thing for a drive. So I will progressively get even more sweaty. Donnie's been
I'm still going
outside working on this, so he's very sweaty. All right, there we go.
Oh yeah. So right before we went to drive it,
Yeah.
as you know, we had a big coolant leak. So I just replaced both radiator hoses in 100-degree
We're in
weather.
there shooting the intro, and then he comes out here, replaces the coolant. So there you go. That's the life of podcasting
and
All right.
owning a Bronco.
and owning a Bronco. All right,
Give her a little more.
give a little gas here.
more, a little more. So this still has an exhaust leak. I haven't done any exhaust work yet.
Come on, baby. Come on.
All right, so as you go through the list, how's the steering?
Steering is super tight. Like, it feels great. Okay, so before I could move the steering wheel, we did that video, and like you could move it up and down and
in and out,
and it's real tight. And man, like even just going back and forth, no power steering, right?
It has
Is that
a little.
power? It does?
Yeah.
Is it power steering?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good though.
Could be quieter.
Could be quieter. Struggling.
Don't go too far.
I'm gonna test the brakes here. There's the floor. No. Nope, there's the floor.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
All right. Yeah. So it feels.
Brakes are good.
Brakes should be bled.
Again.
Yeah, because you
Third time.
you go to the floor.
Yeah.
But
I haven't even driven it yet.
you haven't?
No. So don't break it.
Yeah. So I would say the steering is remarkably spot on.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know carburetors, so I couldn't tell you if the carburetor needs to be adjusted or what, but it still runs rough, which I'm sure you could figure that out. Like
we
know
couldn't
what's
set
going
the
on.
timing completely on this engine because his harmonic balancer, the rubber in between the inner and outer ring, is completely dry rotted.
Yeah.
So I really need to replace that,
But yeah, it feels good. The brakes, I mean,
hit him again.
it goes like I'm at the floor and it's not stopping. I mean, it's slowing. So, but a lot of times that's just adjustment. Like you could have the back adjusted too far out. Does this have a proportioning valve?
It has the original H valve, so I may end up putting in
Definitely.
the Tom's proportioning
Yes.
valve. I wanted to see if you just did disc brakes on the front of one of these trucks,
What would happen?
how is the little H proportioning valve gonna work? What do you think about those new springs?
Okay, that is great.
It
Like,
didn't even squeak.
No. And like, there's actually no squeaks in here. Like, it's pretty impressive. All right, I'm not going to go far. We're just kind of
Go
going around
hit
the
that
shop.
bump again.
Yeah, we're just kind of going around the shop because I don't want to do too much and risk.
So the spring change is everybody that's making spring kits today, they're dual rate springs.
Yeah.
So you've got a tight section and a spread apart section, and the original springs were not. It was sort of one rate all the way top to bottom, but this one, 4 inches up the spring, it was broken in half, rusted in half.
I mean, I will say, like, driving a stock Bronco without a lift, like, it handles really well. It, like, drives really well and can handle, look at that. I mean, we're kind of being jostled around, but, like,
That's firm.
That is firm. That's great.
Yeah.
Like, it handled it great. Like, yeah.
So we did steering column and steering, which you talked about. We did
Yeah.
springs. Now you got all the new bushings in the front, the radius arm bushings, everything. That probably has a lot to do with why it's so firm.
And it's so, like, the steering is so tight. Like, you Bronco guys know, like, when you're driving a Bronco and the steering's always loose on a Bronco, period. Like,
Yeah.
and this, like, it feels tight, tracks straight down the road. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm not going super fast, but
You gotta give the brakes the full foot.
all right. Here we go. Giving the brakes the full foot here. This speed up.
Or you're in neutral. Brakes are bled.
Brakes are good. That was crazy. Okay, so that used to happen on my Bronco all the time. I would lock up one, because on mine, one of the wheel cylinders was off and it was like pushing the shoes out. That sounded like that side. It sounded like passenger.
Let's do it again.
Let's see if I can.
It's I haven't. Maybe this is why. Is it pulling right?
No, it's not pulling at all.
It sounds like they're both hitting.
Is it?
Yeah.
Locking brakes up in Broncos over here. It's pretty impressive. But
On
what's
on
crazy
pavement.
is it goes down to the floor.
Yeah, it probably needs. I mean, we only bled the brakes, and
Yeah.
you're the first person to drive it. So,
Yeah.
my biggest concern is it going to stop straight,
Right.
or is our rear end going to come around?
Yeah.
Is it going to do anything pitchy, weird?
No.
You know? So, and like I said, I haven't done anything with the engine other than getting it running with a new MSD distributor.
Okay.
So, I was given an HEI distributor with the coil on top, but the hood wouldn't close.
From the client?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the hood wouldn't close. So I said, let's just go back to a stock Ford height distributor, and I'm going to have to do the bouncer and a few more things, I think, to get this thing to really run right.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I'm happy with how it rides.
Yeah. Oh, man. Ride quality is incredible. I mean, we wanted to drive this. Even going over that speed bump is great. We wanted to drive this right when it came into the shop, but it was not safe to drive, nor could it drive. It has had so many issues.
Yeah. When we did the Ranger videos when we were going to drive it.
Yes.
So that was been months and months ago.
Yeah. So this is kind of the culmination of Donnie doing a lot of work and getting this thing into a place where we could drive it. We could take it for a test drive. And yeah, so, but it's crazy. I mean, when you think about it, we just did that video on our podcast, you know, what do you get for $40,000 or whatever it was, like, and talked about what kind of truck you get. And even coming in this, like, this feels super original. This feels like a classic. When you're driving down the road, people are going to give you all the thumbs ups because it's just super cool. But it's crazy just how there's still so much to do. You know, like, just because you got lipstick on it doesn't mean that, you know, she's ready to go out for the night.
Well, and this one got a paint job, and it looks amazing on the outside.
Yes.
But mechanically was just really kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
So if you're spending like $40,000-$50,000 on a Bronco, if all this stuff's not done, you're going to do it. And I mean, what I did was a lot of work, and it's a long list. But at the end of the day, so $3,200 for the transmission, which he paid them, and he spent about another $4,500 having everything else done. And now it's a driver. Other than we got to get it obviously tuned and running better.
Right.
Say,
which I will say, Donnie doesn't work on a lot of customer trucks. Like, that, he's not one of the, like, just a mechanic. He obviously, we've talked about it, he builds bodies, he builds restorations, but he can do this. But the reason that it's so hard to find someone to work on a Bronco is because of this. Like, you know, someone brings, hey, my Bronco won't shift right. Well, you start working on the transmission, which then leads to the bell housing, which then leads to the engine, which leads to the steering, which leads to, I mean, it's like
the drive shaft.
It's just a can of worms every time you work on a Bronco. And so that's why it's so hard to get someone to work on these trucks, is because it is like, yes, you could give this back to the client right now or the customer and just say, hey, I did what you asked. But you don't, like, driving it, you need to fix, you know, you need to retune the carburetor. You need to make sure that it runs and drives. So, like, you know, for some of you new Bronco owners out there who are always like, why is it so hard to find someone to work on my Bronco? Well, that's why. I mean, it's a can of worms. And when you're working on your own Bronco, it is a laundry list of things to do, and it doesn't end.
Well, I get this thing running right. It's a nice truck.
It really is. No, it, like, steering wise, it felt so good. You know, just the brakes and your I mean, the fact that we're locking a tire means they're close, you know.
One's working.
Yeah, one is working. Man, that was good. That was it was hot. and sweaty, but that was good.
But the windows worked.
The windows worked.
Give the guy credit.
Yep. Okay. So I know like a lot of people look at that and they're like, oh my gosh, like they could barely drive it. But really though, we're not trying to just talk about all the perfect things that happen in our lives. Like, it's like we're talking about all the things, and this is you thought you were done, but still have some engine stuff to do. But honestly, the steering, like 2 weeks ago did a video where we were looking at steering and we were like going through, that was the truck we used. And the steering wheel, I was the one shaking the steering wheel and it was like moving. So like you've done a lot to it to get it to the point. But it's funny, anytime I come over and just drop in on you, you're like working on, I'm doing this now.
Something
I'm doing this
different
now. I'm
on
doing
the
this
same
now.
truck.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, there's just a lot. So I wanted to go through though some of the things. We always used to do DIY or PAY. So I wanted to just spend some time, like, let's talk about some of the things that you've done. Do you do it yourself or do you pay someone to do it? And a lot of these I've done as well. And so we can just kind of talk through them. So number one, what was one of the first things that you did to that truck?
Well, the steering linkage, which, we just put a stock kit back underneath there from Tom's that has brand new ball joints.
Yep.
And the adjuster. And when you have a new adjuster for towing and tow out, just turn it with your hand.
Yeah.
Especially if you take a little weight off the front wheels. But it stopped straight and everything. And I set the tow in just by eyeing it.
Really?
Yeah. It's not been to an alignment shop. But if you
felt
get
great.
the 3 degrees, if you get it close, it's just enough that you can tell it's got tow in.
Yeah.
But not enough that maybe somebody else would see it. But if you just line up the front rim with the back rim, you go, okay, now it's pointed in a little.
Yeah.
And then you split the difference between the two sides. Again, if you get it right and you get the brakes right and you step on the pedal, it should stop straight.
Yeah.
Unless you got other issues.
And the steering linkage, they have them at Tom's Off-Road. It's basically your drag link and your track bar. And that attaches to the knuckles and holds the knuckles in place as you turn. But yeah, I think it's like $350 and it comes with, all new ball joints and like everything is fresh. The reason that I had to replace mine was when I was taking my steering linkage apart, the ball joints go up into the knuckle. And so I was hitting with a hammer the top of the ball joint, trying to knock it through the knuckle. And I just mushroomed all those threads, couldn't get the nuts back on there. And so ended up having to spend $350 on a new,
that was a while ago.
Linkage.
You know the tricks now.
I do. One, a brass hammer it still could mess it up, but a brass hammer, if you're going to hit it from the top, hit it with a brass hammer because that brass is softer. It's a softer metal, so it's not going to mushroom as bad. But also what actually works the best is hitting the side of the knuckle and it knocks the ball joint loose and then it'll pop out.
That's what I do. I get a long pry bar and put my left leg over it.
Oh, yeah.
Which holds it down. And then I get a hand sledgehammer, mini sledge, and I literally hit the steering knuckle where the ball joint is going through because that's cast iron.
Right.
And you ring it, and eventually, if you leave the nut on top, like loosely threaded, it'll drop and you'll see it catch. And then nothing hits the floor, and you just unthread it. But, it can be, this sounds funny, but it's anywhere from like 17 to 23 whacks. And then it just magically pops down. And just when you think it's not going to go, you just keep rhythmically hitting the thing. And it's the magic numbers between 17 and 23.
It's a perfect number.
But on the brown truck, I had to get 3 of them off. They all did it within the number.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yep.
And then you don't booger the threads up.
All right. So DIY or PAY, would you do that yourself or pay someone to do it for you?
Buy a $13 hammer, mini sledge, and do it yourself.
I agree. Well, okay. How many wrenches would you rank it?
Not whacks.
Yeah.
How many wrenches?
1 to 5.
Honestly, about 2.5.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because there's not many tools now. If you've never done it before, you know you can kind of confuse yourself, and there's little tricks. So I would say it's more than a 2, just because you know there's little nuances that you might need to know to do it. But ease, it's a 1 in the ease, but you could get into trouble like what we were talking about of not hitting your threads and stuff like that.
Well, that's how I used to do it.
All right. Next up, you did the C bushings and radius arms. What would you rank that, DIY or PAY?
What's my top number?
5.
Yeah, it's way higher than that.
What?
No, I don't know. It is so hard, I think, to get it back together.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you don't have like a lift and you don't have stuff to support the axle, but getting that, like the radius arms.
Yeah.
The bushings at the back are really hard.
Yeah.
Like, the front one's not as hard, but I'm going to rate that pretty high. Like,
really?
You got to have a lot of personal constitution. So I'm going to put it at least at a 4.
Wow. That's impressive. Like, I would say it's probably a 3.
Yeah.
But I've done them now. I mean, I've done it on my truck probably 3 or 4 times, not because I needed to, just for different videos. And then I did it on my restoration twice because I filmed it twice. And so it's like I've gotten pretty good at being able to hold the radius arm and put the cap on and screw it in, and like gotten pretty efficient at it. And
I'm assuming they're working on a 74 Bronco that's never been apart.
Yeah, probably.
Which is really hard.
It is going to be really hard. Yeah.
And in the process, so I actually rate that as a very challenging job because of the weight of the axle.
Right.
And then, you got to get the radius arm in the radius arm bushing, and then you got to get the axle up there, and then you got to get the cap to thread on.
See, you should have called me because I had a little ratchet strap trick where I put 2 ratchet straps on the front axle and put them all the way to the cross member.
Yeah. And
ratcheted them down. And until they hit,
pulled the axle into the radius arms.
Pulled the axle, the radius arm into the bracket on the frame, like through that hole. So I ratcheted strap it till it hit, and then I put a ratchet strap around both radius arms to suck it in because they're kind of angled in. And it was easy peasy because it just went in and then put the nut on, tightened it down.
It's funny, though. I was using the new Coates lift.
Oh, yeah.
And the washer on the front is bigger in diameter than the mount. And I had the truck lifted on the mount.
Oh, yeah.
Which was fighting me.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's, I know. It's tricky.
I think with our wrench system, you should know that it depends on your truck. Because what could be, like a 2 wrench job on one truck is going to be a 5 wrench job on another truck. It's
that's true.
Just because all Broncos are so different. You don't know what the previous owners have done to them before you're touching them. It's like,
well, your ratchet strap technique will save me almost 2 hours next time.
Yeah.
Probably an hour and a half. Easy.
It is. And you know who I got it from? Matt's Garage. I watched one of his videos, and that's what he did. And I was like, that is brilliant. And so I did it. And it whereas, yes, before, you are wrestling that thing, and it is just so challenging. I forget how I did it, but I remember it was like full body and full sweat, kind of getting the radius arm through there. And I saw him do that, and I was like, that's brilliant,
Well, and then the front axle's like an alligator.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Try and put that on there.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Next one, you put the new front springs in.
Yeah, so while, I was taking all this apart, his C bushings in the front of the radius arms were completely gone. There was just bits and pieces left. So they had actually petrified, and I had to chisel them off of the actual axle and then clean that surface, put the new ones in, and the threads were good, so all my bolts went back in. But I noticed one of the springs was literally cracked about 4 inches up, cracked in half.
Oh,
So these were the original springs. So they rusted and then got brittle, I guess. And so I had to put new coil springs in. So that kind of added to the work. But you drove it. What did you think of those front springs?
they felt great. I mean, nothing about the suspension felt like it was loose or like it was tight. And I said it while we were driving, like I really do like the feel of a stock suspension, and like the geometry just feels good, and it's, just easy to drive and handles really nicely. And so, yeah, I felt like it drove great.
A lot of people don't realize that if your C bushings are blown out and your radius arm bushings at the back are blown out and you step on the brakes, the truck may want to pitch one way or another. And it's those bushings, because that's what holds the axle straight or perpendicular under the frame rails. So if your truck's pitching and stuff, and those have never been replaced, go replace those, and it might go straight when you hit the brakes.
Yeah.
One other area that I needed to address was the steering, which you talked about. And I put new bearings, really the one at the bottom of the steering column before the shaft comes out is the important one. You were grabbing that, and it was clunking. All his balls fell out of his bearing. So, and then it wallered out the metal that was left. So I'd say that probably made a huge difference.
And you had to pull the entire steering shaft column apart for that.
Ironically, the shaft itself, if you've got the original shaft with the rag joint on the end, the little donut, it's longer than the distance between the firewall and the core support.
Oh my gosh.
So you either take it out of the inside of the truck with the column, or you take the column so far out and then you can slide it out. So I ended up putting it in the column and then pushing the whole column back through from the inside.
Okay.
And that's how we'll take them out from now on, because you don't save any time doing it the other way.
Yeah.
But, doing the column, to me, that is so worth it. So I would rate that job a 2.5, probably, if you're just willing to disconnect everything and pull the column out.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
Nice.
The other thing that we did was the Tom's disc brake conversion on this truck. I had to use my mini sledge again to get the drums off.
Oh.
And I used the cutting wheel, the wheel of death.
Yes.
And a torch. And it's like, these were original, and somebody had already taken a hammer to them before. So they were chipped all the way around the edge that's supposed to keep the dust out.
Yeah.
So they just weren't coming off. But I knew I was putting new bearing hubs and new four-wheel drive locking hubs and everything. So I just got after it. But getting those things off, that was a chore. So again, that could be,
per truck,
a 2.5. Well, this truck, it took
a 5. Yeah.
It took everything I had emotionally to finish the job.
Yeah.
No, that got the best of me.
That was how mine were on my truck. The first time I pulled them off, it was like blowtorch, hammer and chisel kind of thing to get them off. So I get it.
Well, in this truck's, I intentionally didn't finish it to give it back to him yet, because as an experiment, I wanted to see what the original 50-year-old H block. It's not a proportioning valve. It's a
junction block.
Junction block. And it actually did pretty well, but his lines are all original. So
I would be interested. I think part of the lack of stopping power is that H block. Like, I think if you put the proportioning valve in there, it would immediately kind of wake it up.
Well, Tom's kit comes with the proportioning valve.
And
it comes with the lines. So I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll do that on Monday.
Yeah.
And see what the difference is. But the disc brakes were, they're really nice.
Yeah.
And the truck didn't rattle or anything.
And I think that's what was locking up, was that one disc brake. But yeah.
Well, one of the lines has 2 90-degree almost kinks in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I just, I was curious. Like, I'll finish it later, but at least we got to drive it.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. Well, it was super cool. Thank you for letting us pick apart a truck that you hadn't even shaken down yet, and let me kind of pick on you. Not you. I mean, you're working on it still, but yeah, it's cool. It's fun to I don't know. Do you guys like us driving other trucks? I think it's super fun. So I'm always looking for those opportunities to drive someone else's Bronco and just talk about the nuances, talk about, the differences and stuff like that. But yeah,
I love driving different Broncos because everyone is unique.
Totally feels different. Yeah.
And then you drive somebody's just like, wow, that's awesome. Are those sway bars,
right.
or
what
whatever
did you
they
do?
What did you do? Because I want that on my truck.
Well, like the steering, seriously, like holding that steering wheel on the one that I just drove, like that felt amazing because my Bronco has some of that play in the steering wheel. And so driving one without any play, it's like, oh, that is possible. That was cool for me. So good job. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.